So you guys are both really successful entrepreneurs, and people might be wondering, like, okay, it's working for you. Can it really work for me? So I want to know, what do you think your readers and the folks in the audience have in common with you, or in common with you when you got started?
Well, I think the one thing that I always start the book talking about is, I started off really judging my ideas really harshly, and I know a lot of my audience does the same, where they're like, it's not good enough, or I'm not good enough, or I just don't know where to get started, and like rejection is really hard. And what's interesting is, like, we all, not all of us, but a fair number of us have those sort of insecurities, right? And that's okay. But the key is, like, to not let them consume you, right? So it's like, okay, I got like the 10th rejection today. Great, let's just like keep going. Let's just like keep going, because there's nothing else to do. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, fold up shop and then 20 years later be like, oh, I had that idea I really should have done, but now I can't, like, you don't want to have that moment, right? So you just kind of keep going. So I think that's one thing that, like, I feel like I always have in common with a lot of my readers is starting off with this notion that, yes, the idea might not be perfect, or I might not be perfect about the approach that I'm taking, but I'm still going to do it anyway. And then I'm just going to keep sort of making mistakes and going on from there. I think it's wrong to sort of set the sort of Silicon Valley expectation that, like, you wake up in the morning with an idea and then, like, you go to bed and you've had an exit. Like, that just doesn't happen. I mean, it's great that, like, that gets advertised, but even the entrepreneurs that I've talked to who have had, much greater exits than I've had, a lot of times they've talked about, like, oh, in high school I had like 5 failed businesses, or like, by the time I got to 30 I had this like string of failures. So it's just that they don't always talk about it, and I think it's important to kind of dig into that, because what ends up happening is, like, each one of those failed moments is like a moment of learning and what I'm not going to do the next time around. And so we kind of have to have those, like, over and over and over again before we kind of get to that light bulb moment.
Yeah, and I agree with basically everything you said. I guess a few things to echo. One is, you guys in the room probably, like, know more than I did when, like, I started. Like, I honestly knew, like, nothing about, like, convertible notes or raising money, or what, like, even the incubator program options that were available to me. I was, like, fairly naive. I just wanted to, like, build a product and have an impact, and not really, like, understanding all the business and, like, the lean startup methodology or anything like that. So I think looking at, this as an opportunity to learn is really important, but also realizing that the way that you can learn really fast is by having something real that you're trying to learn on. Because it's very easy, like, there's, like, conceptual learning, like reading books and gaining, like, a conceptual understanding, and then there's actual, like, messing around with something that actually exists in the world. And so I don't think it's very hard to do that, to, like, take an idea and build something. I mean, whether you're not technical, if you're non-technical, it could be, like, trying to figure out what the way in which you test that idea that doesn't require technology. If it's technical, if you're technical, it could be build, like, a simple prototype that doesn't look very good and start showing it to people and getting feedback. I think it is a very long journey, but it is unlikely that you are going to be successful the first time. Like, even Stripe, which is a very famous startup, right? Like, they were actually in my YC batch, and they died. Yeah. They died during my YC batch and came back in the next one. And that was the second startup that those guys had done. Yeah. So, like, their second startup actually just completely sort of burnt out for a year, right? And then they came back and tried again. So a lot of it is persistence and finding another way to accomplish what you want to do, but you learn along the way.